Hello, I'm the Geeky Blonde Reviewer, and welcome back to my playthrough of Kerbal Space Program .19. Now, you saw the last episode, we launched our moon lander. We launched it. Now, we're going for, we're trying to get it up to altitude, and then we will try to get into orbit and go to the mun. Not moon, mun. Get that right in your head, guys. Alright. AO apps is about 30 kilometers. Things are jiggling around. Alright, still going great. I shouldn't have done that, but it didn't hurt any, so that's good. Okay. Aside from our most random of spins, we're in space. That was not hard at all. Alright, now we got the next hard part. Now we've got to cancel out a roll and use the non-existent torque, since they haven't implemented that yet. Use the non-existent torque feature to push our rocket over to where we want to be. We must push it with all our might. It's going to be a little while. But in the meantime, you might be wondering, how would the Saturn V rocket do this? Well, difference between the Saturn V rocket and this rocket is the Saturn V fired all the way up into orbit. It never really stopped firing its engines. It stopped once it got orbital insertion, and then it began again using its service module, command service module, but it used that to get it back into, it used that for its lunar insertion, correction. Yeah, it made use the Oberth effect of the planet Earth to kind of slingshot it over to the moon. But yeah. Now, talking about the Apollo and lunar insertions and all that, the the idea of a lunar insertion, what it was called was what they originally planned to do was known as a Earth orbit rendezvous. What they actually went with was something they actually renamed completely different. They were planning an Earth orbit rendezvous, but the idea of a lunar orbit rendezvous, is that right? Lunar orbit. Doesn't seem right. Lunar orbit rendezvous. I think that's right. You all don't hold me to it. It might be wrong. But the idea of a lunar orbit rendezvous was that, like they did in the real Apollo missions, launch from the surface, dock with the command module, and orbit around the moon, and get back home. What two ideas they had on the table before then was Earth orbit rendezvous and moon direct. The idea of the moon direct was go to the moon, one ginormous rocket, land, kind of like what I'm doing. I'm not using anything else. I'm not using two spacecraft. It's just one big spacecraft to land and return. This is exactly what they were doing back then. So I'm actually repeating their exact same thing. But the big difference is in Kerbal Space Program, things are reduced significantly. The size of the moon in this game, the moon is probably closer to the size of Pluto. It might be bigger than Pluto, but it'd be close to. So, if you need a comparatives, you need something to compare it with. Alright. Now we're out of the atmosphere. Let's boost up the engines to get us some thrust vectoring and some control. We are going to have to fire up the engines at the last second. Come on. Alright. Come on, come on, come on. Alright, throttling up engines. Wait, I can't have it on max throttle. So yeah, as I was saying, yeah, what they were planning was just to go from our moon direct. But they knocked that off the table when they rediscovered the idea of lunar orbit rendezvous. The reason the idea of lunar orbit rendezvous was so much more successful than that, or Earth orbit rendezvous, which I can't forget. The reason it was more successful was because it saved a lot of weight. Earth orbit rendezvous saved a lot of weight because you're only carrying one spacecraft capable of re-entry. Instead of having to have two launches, which the idea of Earth orbit rendezvous was launching the lander into space, leave it there, have the main craft come up and pick it up later. That's the idea of Earth orbit rendezvous, to make two launches, have them dock in orbit around Earth, then go to the moon. Then, as you're going to the moon, hold on. Come on. Here we go. Yes! Cleared the debris. Holy crap. Holy crap. Get me on center, get me on center, get me on center, get me on center, SAS. Spinning out, you're spinning out, you're spinning out, bro. Calm your tits. Calm your tits. This reminds me of this, what is it, Gemini 3 or Gemini 5 or something with Neil Armstrong's first flight? They got into space and they docked with their target craft, the Gina, and as they did so, they picked up a very worrying left roll. And ended up getting so bad, they picked up like 3 or 4 Gs. And they started to experience tunnel vision. And they had to actually use their re-entry thrusters in order to get control of it. And it still wasn't completely fixed, so they called an immediate abort. And that was Neil Armstrong's first mission in a nutshell. He had to abort it. Dang it. Alright, I could be in an orbit right now. I have no idea how much I'm fighting with this thing. There. I am in orbit. They're close enough. Oh gosh, I'm off center again. And I'm going to roll again. This craft is perfectly symmetrical, so I have no idea why there's roll. Boost my periapts up just enough. And okay, we got enough. Rose my AOAPs a little bit too much, so let's go ahead and scroll out. Ship keeps drifting. I may have put too much fuel on this craft. I could probably go all the way out to Minmus, but who cares? Who cares about Minmus? We're going to the moon. Alright. Using the maneuver node system to get me there. Growing, growing, growing. Alright, probably a little bit less. Alright, let's drag this thing around until we can find out. proper places. Aha! Perfect. Right there. About a 34-second burn in about 3 minutes. Let's just go ahead and use this to line ourselves up. Alright. Another reason why the Apollo spacecraft were so much more easy to control and keep in one direction than this. They had RCS, or reaction control thrusters. That made things a whole lot easier to control. In fact, in one mission, this became almost crucial. In Apollo 13, although it's known as the successful failure, was when they were in, right after, if I remember correctly, right after their lunar insertion burn. And as they made their lunar insertion, their service module had a catastrophic failure and exploded. One of its oxygen tanks exploded, and in doing so, crippled the whole spacecraft. And because they were running out of RCS and fuel, at that time they had some RCS. I'm not certain if they actually lost RCS. I'm not certain. That may not have been that part of the story, the service module. I'm not certain. But all I can say is, crap, what you gonna think? All I can say is that their service module exploded. Holy crap! We're swimming around like a fish. Gotta be able to see that, but our ship started doing a wibbly wobbly motion. It still is. What the heck, man? I got you strutted. Why are you dancing? You can see it there. It's dancing. Whatever. Should be able to calm its tits a little bit more once we decouple this bottom stage. Too bad we've got like 700 more pounds of this fuel. That's another thing about this game. We don't know if the game registers in just some unknown unit, or if it's actually in liters. Assuming because the game is in metrics, we're assuming that everything's in meters, in metric. It'd be highly, highly doubtful that the game would be, highly doubtful that they would use metric for one thing and then turn and use imperial for something else. If you don't know what imperial is what America uses. Gallons, feet, yards. Come on, get it close. Periods. 340. There we go. We got a perfect encounter. And what a coincidence. What a perfect time to call it quits. And as I always say,